Thank you very much, everyone, for coming tonight. My name is Pam Powell. I'm part of the Chicago Critics Film Association, and I'm also part of Real Talk with Chuck and Pam. Thank you for coming out on this gorgeous night to witness and participate in seeing this gorgeous film. We are so lucky to have with us tonight India Donaldson, the writer and director of the film. Please give her a warm round of applause. Don't trip on my purse. And before we start, I am going to toot your horn a little bit here. This is India's first full-length feature film, and it played at both Sundance and Cannes, and it was nominated for 3 awards. Please give her a round of applause for that. That is incredible. Congratulations for that. I understand. I'm going to go back in time a little bit with you and get a little bit of background information from you. I understand that your father was a director and you spent a lot of time watching him do what he does, and you loved every minute of it. But it took a little while before you actually followed maybe in his footsteps a little bit, and you did something else before that. Tell us a little bit about what you did before you got to this point. What was your journey?
Yeah, sure. I lived in New York after college and worked in the fashion industry for a solid 10 years before I switched to filmmaking. Like you said, my father's a filmmaker, and I think there's an incredible luxury afforded when you can watch a parent make a career in a creative field, and you can sort of observe that, oh wow, this is a thing I could do with my life. But I think, I had one very specific idea of what it meant to be a filmmaker. It was my dad. And I sort of needed to find my own way in. And yeah, I did this other thing that I loved for a long time, and then kind of one day realized that I was secretly writing screenplays and not showing them to anyone. It's like, oh, maybe this is something I actually do want to do. And then started making shorts and meeting collaborators. Some of them worked on this movie. Sort of finding my people and making shorts and finding my voice that way, experimenting.
And is Good One, is that one of the secret screenplays that you had written?
No, actually, I wrote this, more recently. It's something that came out of the pandemic. I was living at home with my family. I have 2 younger teenage half-siblings, and they were in high school at the time, and I was living at home for some months and sort of reflecting on my own youth through them, the ways in which it was similar and very different, and also kind of inspired by how a contained environment can force family dynamics to the surface. And I think just dreaming of kind of freedom and being outside and away from fantasizing about being outdoors, and so it's a more recent script.
So in then being inspired to write this script during the pandemic, did you look back on your own upbringing and camping? Did you do that as a kid? Tell me about how you are a part of this movie maybe, and what inspired you to tell this specific father-daughter relationship story?
Yeah, my dad loved a road trip, a camping trip, like national park, hitting the road kind of thing. And I'm one of many siblings, and I think as a kid and a teenager, I would I think find a way to be close to him by sharing his passions, and they became my passions too, in a very authentic way, I think. And to this day, I love doing the things that these characters are doing. So it's sort of, just inherited love for certain quality of adventure. And it was also a way that I got to spend one-on-one time with my dad. And and then it can be complicated too.
Father-daughter relationships are extremely complicated, as we are both daughters and we have fathers, and I know you've got a son now and I have 2 grown children, so we all know what those dynamics can possibly bring along. Something that I really noticed within the movie are those real moments of driving in the car and she's going too fast, and she's really not going too fast, but Dad's yelling at her that she's going too fast. I mean, I saw myself in those moments and my daughter rolling her eyes at me. Tell me about creating those specific moments that are just, they're not overly dramatic, but they're real and authentic, something like that.
I mean, those moments are truly just pulled from my life. I think the more specific, probably the more personal. I think my memory of being on these types of trips with my dad, I remember all the little details, the subtle arguments. I mean, texting for him while he was driving, things like that. Just the
even though it made you sick.
Yeah, exactly. And I just wanted to elevate those little details by putting them on screen.
This is a movie that I would love to have lots of father-daughters go and see. Just because I think it's a good way to stimulate conversation, because it is so authentic. What do you hope that, I guess it's a 2-part question. What do you hope that fathers will take away from this, and what do you hope that maybe a teenage daughter would take away from it?
I really, in writing the script and making the movie, I really just wanted to allow space narratively for people to bring whatever they need or want to bring to the story. So I don't really feel like I have, a prescriptive answer in that sense, but in a broader way, I think one theme for me with this movie was I wanted to show how the power of listening, and that's part of the reason why the camera is so often on her while the dialogue is off screen. What is the meaning of listening? And it's something that she does a lot of, and they don't do a lot of in return for her. So I don't know, it's something in there. Just sometimes I think it's impossible to say the right thing, especially in the moment.
Right.
I don't think there's any version of that confrontation where Chris, the dad, could have said exactly the right thing, but he could have listened to her. And so maybe the answer's somewhere in there.
All right. And in the quiet moments, I think, especially as a first-time feature film director and writer, I think those quiet moments say so very much. They're very, very important, and I think a lot of times filmmakers are scared to put those in there, but they speak volumes. Was there any hesitation when you were writing this to keep that in there, or when you were directing or watching, or tell me what was in your mind when you were filming that?
I always knew that, I love writing dialogue, and there's a lot of dialogue in the script, but it's not all on camera. And I always knew that I wanted to sort of de-emphasize what was being said in service of elevating the experience of the listener, I guess, to go back to what we were previously talking about. And I think a lot of the silences were also found in the edit. You know, we captured. In the process of shooting, I really anchored the process to Lily and her performance, and always making sure that I had, you know, her full coverage of every scene, even when she says nothing. That was always the most important thing. And, you know, between that and then, you know, the nature imagery and all of the, just the footage of the business of camping, you know, the work of setting up camp, breaking it down, all of that. Yeah, I love the textures of those things, and I think the script on the page read a lot less silent than the film is, and so I think that was something we discovered in the process of editing it that I always knew would be an important part of it, but the balance, I think, was discovered in the edit.
Okay, interesting. Let's talk about Sam, played by Lily. Can you pronounce her last name for me?
Coleus.
Coleus. She's incredible, but it took a while to find her, I understand. Tell me about the process of finding her, because if you didn't have a good Sam, you weren't going to have a movie.
Yeah, we had been looking for the right young actor for some time, and, you know, going about it in maybe a more traditional way. And I mentioned before I have a younger teenage sister, and she was 18 at the time, a senior in high school, and just on a whim, I asked her if she knew any actors, and magically, this led me to Lily. I mean, I still can't believe that this is how we met, but Lily and I met in person, and then she taped 2 scenes for us, and I sent the tape to our casting director with no context, because I thought her audition was amazing, but I sort of didn't trust that it could happen this way. And Taylor Williams, our casting director, called me immediately. It's like, what? Who is this person? She's incredible. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like the universe brought us together somehow, and I still kind of can't believe it. Yeah, I'm really proud of her.
Absolutely incredible. And I think so much is said, not with a spoken word, but also reading in between the lines, and her facial expressions. Everything is very finely nuanced, which is incredible for somebody who's not been in a movie before. So, but a lot of that too comes from the director. So tell me about establishing a relationship between the two of you and how you elicited that from her.
I think a lot of the work was done before we shot the film. I cast her when she was 17, and we could not afford to shoot this film with a minor, and so we waited a full year.
Oh, wow.
And in that year, we really got to know each other. I would check in periodically, and we didn't really talk about the script even. We just would sort of just hang out and get to know each other. And then we cast James LeGros, who plays her dad, and he lives in Wyoming, but the 3 of us would Zoom periodically, and again, not really talk about the script or the characters, but just kind of hang out. And I took on more of an observer role, just letting them talk. And I think trust was built in that year between among the 3 of us.
Right.
And I think Lily had spent a lot of time with the script and the character, and really just has an incredible, beautiful confidence, and trusted her own instincts, and I trusted her. And I mean, I really feel like I, as a director, had a light touch while we were shooting. I really just wanted to let her have the space to, I mean, I don't know how she did it. Every take was good. I think it's just the product of, I don't even want to speak for her, but yeah, I think across the board with collaborators, I feel like you choose to collaborate with people that you want to trust, because
Right.
you want to them to do what they're so good at. And I really felt like Lily, she had a handle on this character. She knew what she was doing. She brought an incredible amount of depth and nuance to it with the exact words that I wrote, but still she surprised me constantly. Anyway.
You really felt like she and Chris, her dad, or Jim LaCrosse, they were truly father and daughter because they talked over each other's words. They felt natural and comfortable with one another, and there were those looks. I mean, everything just felt so authentic.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I mean, I think also credit to James, who really had so much respect for Lily and treated her like a peer, James, this seasoned actor, and Lily, this newcomer, he just treated her like, you're my colleague.
Right.
And they had an incredible, friendship and chemistry off screen as well as on screen.
Let's dive into the pivotal scene, the one where I was thinking, no, don't go, please don't go there. You went there, and with Matt saying what he did to Lily or to Sam. Tell me about directing that. I loved the close-up shots of their faces and capturing those reactions, but tell me about creating that tension and delivering what we got.
Ooh, it was a hard scene.
I bet.
We shot it over 2 nights. It's a really long scene. There's a lot of dialogue, and I think of it as being a scene that sort of has 3 acts within this one scene. I mean, there were production challenges with it, with the light and the environment, and shooting. We shot this movie in 12 days, and just the challenges of splitting it up in that way. But we shot it at the very end of the shoot, and I think by that time, Lily and James and Danny were just so in it with that dynamic, and I felt like they had already individually and as a group done so much work to develop these relationships that it felt like everything we shot could go in the movie. Really? Like it didn't feel like we were searching to find the performance. Like it felt like they were in it throughout, and we really didn't shoot, especially the moment, we didn't shoot it many times because I feel like it was a very intimate group of people, and we'd been together for weeks, and I think we all felt the discomfort of that scene and shooting it, and it sort of mirrored the experience of watching it back. It was, like, oh, he's letting us all down, and I think we found the subtlety of how that scene comes together again in the edit. Like, a few frames here and there made such a difference in terms of how that scene feels when you choose to cut away from Matt to Sam. Felt like the most important edit choice of the whole movie, and it's such a tiny thing,
Right. Yeah, editing can make a huge difference in what the story tells. Let's talk a little bit about Mother Nature. And you said you shot this in 12 days, so you had a finite number of days that you had to get everything done. Mother Nature can be wonderful and accommodating, and she can also be kind of a bitch. So how did that go?
She was both.
Okay.
We had no margin for error because on top of the limited resources of independent filmmaking, SAG, the Actors Union, was going on strike the day that we were set to wrap. So we couldn't extend, even if we, you know, I feel like we got hit with every challenge. A thunderstorm where we lost half a day, maybe almost a full day. Wildfire smoke coming down from Canada.
Wow, okay.
Ticks, bears, you know, all of it. I think some of the crew was more down for the being in kind of the mud. I mean, so much mud. But it's, for me, you know, we spent so much time, we spent a year prepping of like sort of informal prep on this movie. And I think the core team was, we all like really knew the movie that we needed,
right.
like what we needed to get by the end of the shoot. And we just pivoted every time there was some, you know, there's a thunderstorm, so we shot all of the interior tent stuff on the porch of the Airbnb where we were staying, okay. You know, things like that. I tried to just keep shooting as long as it was legal.
It's always good.
Which is not when there's thunderstorms. You don't want anyone to get hurt. But yeah, just keep shooting and build it into the story. You know, the first kind of campfire scene when the hiker boys join, it had been raining, it was really wet.
Yeah.
You know, so we put the tarp up and it's been raining. And to me, the texture of the wetness and the color that it brought to the environment just becomes part of the movie in that way. And if we'd shot this movie, I think, you know, 2 weeks later, it would have been a different movie visually, you know? And I think, I mean, that's so cool to me that it's like, it's a little document of the exact time and place where we made it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also all of the beautiful, like, unexpected bugs and the butterflies, all of the stuff that you can't anticipate, that became totally integral to the movie. Yeah.
And the rhododendrons were blooming, so
yes, they only bloom for 2 weeks.
You hit it right.
The year.
You hit it right.
They wouldn't have been in the movie if. Yeah.
It was absolutely gorgeous. We mentioned it a little bit that you have a 3-year-old son, and so he was how old when you were filming this?
About 2.5.
And so, and I know there are probably quite a few moms out there and some dads out there too. How do you balance that? How difficult was that to do? Tell me about that process.
Yeah, very challenging. I had it in my head for a long time that I needed to make a feature film before having a child.
Okay.
And it didn't happen that way, you know?
Life usually doesn't.
Because it's really hard to make a feature film. And you know, I'm so grateful to my husband who, you know, he and our child spent 3 weeks together without me while we shot the film, and you know, he did the lion's share of parenting while I edited the film, and you know, so I'm very lucky that he was, you know, a partner in parenting and marriage. But you know, I found it really challenging, the separation. A film is so demanding of you emotionally and of your time, and so is a child, doing both at once. Every time I meet a mother who works in the film industry, I'm just like, how do you do it?
Is there a certain recipe or
Is there a recipe? I don't know. I'm still figuring it out. But yeah, relying heavily on my husband and my extended family to help me. Yeah.
That's fantastic. I have one last question and then an announcement to make to everyone. The song at the end that played through the credits, I hope everyone was listening and watching the credits. Tell me about that song and why that's special to this movie.
It's a song by the folk musician Connie Converse, who I recommend, if you don't know her music already, that you look it up and listen to it and read about her story. She recorded this beautiful album, and without going into great detail about it, she sort of vanished and nobody knows what happened to her. And Taylor Williams, our music supervisor, had that song on a playlist as suggestions for the close of the film. And the first lyrics of the song are "in between two tall mountains," which just felt like perfect for this movie. But just the symmetry of a woman who disappears from her life, and I won't infer why the real Connie Converse did that, but just sometimes becomes too much, and extracting yourself from a situation is perhaps the only option. And I loved the symmetry that it had with the movie, and just felt like this unexpected kind of beautiful thing. And I love that connection, so happy for any opportunity to talk about it.
Good. Is there anything else that maybe I didn't ask that you would like to share with the audience about making this film, or anything that has to do with that?
I don't think so. Just thank you all for being here and for watching it.
And please be sure to stick around, go to the lounge, have a cocktail or two, and you can chat with India in the lounge and ask her any questions that you might have about the movie personally. So thank you again, everyone, for coming. We are so thrilled to have India Donaldson here for this fantastic film. Thank you, everyone.